advice I can give you is don't get married before your Saturn return, because the person you were before and the person you are after will be totally different. Welcome back, astrology lovers. Today's topic is all about our tough love dad, Saturn, and more specifically about our Saturn returns. Each one of us goes through a Saturn return at about age 27 to 30, depending on when you were born, and then we repeat that cycle at about age 60. Now, we definitely in astrology need to understand the energy of Saturn. He is our tough love dad, he is our disciplinarian, but our Saturn return is a chapter in our lives where we up-level, where we mature, where we grow, where we really take on more accountability, more responsibility, and change our perspective on life. Now, depending on where Saturn was at the time of your birth, will dictate when you go through your Saturn return. So since this applies to everybody, I'm going to make this video kind of broad, talking just in general about Saturn, his energy, what he's trying to teach us in astrology, talking about our Saturn return in this chapter in our life, how we can navigate it a little bit easier, because it is kind of a time where our whole world can be turned upside down and unexpected curveballs are given to us. All those challenges and obstacles in life can show up at Saturn return moments. And so I'm going to help you navigate that today. And then with that, I'll give you kind of a cheat sheet on how you can glide through your Saturn return a little bit easier. And if you know it's coming up, then this is definitely a video you're going to want to pay attention to. And if you're currently in it, I hope this video brings you some ease and comfort as you navigate the next 3 years with Saturn in the zodiac sign of Pisces. At the end of this video, I will go into some depth for those of you who are currently experiencing your Saturn return in Pisces. I don't want to leave you hanging. And for those of you with a Saturn in Pisces in your birth chart, you get a little bit easier of a time during your Saturn return. And we'll talk about that more in this video. So let's go ahead and just jump right in, starting out with our tough love dad, Saturn. Now, I talked a lot about Saturn in my previous video as I talked about the transit of Saturn moving into Pisces, but a quick refresher. Knowing in astrology and my lens as a relational astrologer is I like to see each planet as a life coach to us. They're here to teach us lessons. They're here to rule over a certain area of our life. So my example that I give everyone when I relate to my life coach planets is, imagine in your life you have a personal trainer, and that personal trainer is responsible about everything over your physical body. But then you might have a therapist, and that therapist is responsible over all the mental health aspects of your life. And so same thing with our life coach planets. I like to think of Saturn's energy as our tough love dad, that disciplinarian. In astrology, we call him the taskmaster, the timekeeper, and Lord Karma. Because just like a tough love dad who's going to nag you to do your homework. Did you do your homework? Did you do your homework? If you don't do your homework, you can't go to the party this weekend. That's kind of Saturn's energy. And with him being Lord Karma, if you did your homework and you graduate with a 4.0, you get rewarded, right? Your tough love dad might take you on a summer vacation. But if you don't do your homework and you fail the 8th grade, not only do you have to repeat the grade, but you also get punished and maybe you're now grounded for the summer. That is the same way that Saturn's energy and astrology influences us. So it might be challenging when Saturn comes around because he is going to give you obstacles. He is going to challenge you to grow. He is going to force you to do those things that you would rather just not do. You know, if life is roses and butterflies, you're not going to want to change. You're going to want to keep it exactly the same. But your soul signed up to come here to grow, to try new things, to get out of your comfort zone and to move forward in your journey. And that's where Saturn comes in as the disciplinarian and that tough love dad. So all planets go through a cycle, right? We know in astrology that the sun moves through all the zodiac signs once a year. The entire astrological year is based upon the sun moving through the zodiac sign of Aries all the way through to the zodiac sign of Pisces. The moon has a 28-day cycle, meaning it goes through all zodiac signs every 28 days. Mercury, Mars, and Venus all have their own dedicated cycle time frame. Jupiter is about once every 12 years, and then we have Saturn. Now, Saturn's journey around the astrological wheel is once every 30 years. He's a slower moving planet, so he's a little bit easier to keep track of because when he enters into a zodiac sign, he is parked there. park there for about 2.5 to 3 years. Now he will retrograde during that time frame, go direct, he will move back and forth, and so he is really working on that specific area of your life for a chapter. And so although his lessons are challenging and although they can bring a lot of obstacles our way, we know that it's going to just be a specific amount of time. So for example, in the current astrology, Saturn has been in the zodiac sign of Aquarius since December of 2020. So from December of 2020 until March 7th, Saturn in Aquarius has parked there in that area of your life. And that was a chapter in your life. Wherever Aquarius falls within your own unique birth chart was the area of life that he was hammering you with lessons. Now, if you learn those lessons early on in the journey, like in the beginning of 2021, then it probably was a lot easier for you through the rest of his time in Aquarius. Now, if you don't step up into those lessons and don't get with the program, then Saturn can get a little bit more difficult and a little bit more challenging. So again, remembering in astrology that we have free will, we get to determine how, when, and where we're going on this soul journey, but Saturn is going to be that energy that is always going to push you to grow. So understanding that helps us realize that challenging moments in our life don't last forever. Now on March 7th, all the way until about 2026, Saturn will be in the zodiac sign of Pisces. When he's in Pisces, it will be in a different area in your birth chart, meaning a different area of your life for the next 3 years that you're going to learn Saturn's lessons. So as Saturn journeys through the astrological wheel, through all 12 zodiac signs, that is going to influence all 12 different areas of your life, depending again on your unique birth chart. So understanding Saturn's cycles really helps us have more peace, have more understanding, and it helps us focus in on different areas of our life that we're meant to during different seasons of our life. Now you're going to want to go ahead and grab your birth chart and look up where Saturn fell on the date of your birth. Now remembering Saturn is a very slow moving planet, so even if you do not know your exact birth time, this can still be accurate when you look up your birth information. Now, unless you were born on one of the days that Saturn moved from one zodiac sign to another, then your birth time will matter because there's a specific time that Saturn moved on that day. And you will know that because if you were born on a day where Saturn was at either 29 degrees or 0 degrees in your birth chart, then you may need more detailed information. But for the most of you, that won't be the case. So once you understand what zodiac sign Saturn fell on the date of your birth, you can understand what specific lessons you're meant to learn. Now that's a whole nother video or something we can dive in a one-on-one session, but knowing that Saturn is the disciplinarian, so he's going to be the life coach in your birth chart that's going to indicate what your soul signed up to learn, to take more responsibility for, what challenges to overcome, what limitations or obstacles you might face most of the time throughout your journey here on Earth, and how you're going to grow and step into your own power and your own inner authority. So that's what Saturn represents within your own birth chart. Now, going back to the cycles, you now know that Saturn was at a specific place in the astrology, in the sky at the moment of your birth. Now, like we mentioned, Saturn moves around the sky, around the zodiac wheel, once every about 28 years. And so as we grow from the moment of our birth until our first Saturn return at about age 28 to 30, we are going through new experiences, right? Every time Saturn moves every 3 years into a new zodiac sign, into a new area of your life in your birth chart, you're going to have to face new obstacles in this area of your life. Maybe it's relationships, then new obstacles in the area of your life related to your finances, then another 3 years of obstacles you're going to have to face in your career, and so on around the wheel. Now, from the age of birth until 30, we are just growing, right? We don't really have to step into a whole lot of responsibility because it's our first time that Saturn has visited that area of our life. And so we're just trying it out. We're trying to take on more responsibility. We're trying to see how we're going to grow. We're taking on more, accountability and discipline and structure and routine in our lives. So that first go round from 0 to about 28 isn't as challenging. Now, I want to kind of break this down really simple. This is kind of advanced astrology, but I just want to give you kind of the energetic understanding of the cycles of life that we go through and how Saturn as an energy in astrology is very pivotal to our growth. So for this example, we're going to pull up a chart here, and this person has Saturn in Pisces. So for those of you currently going through your Saturn return, this will be easy to follow. For the rest of us, just kind of get the gist of the cycle and the timing in your life. So born with a Saturn in Pisces. In astrology, we watch that planet continue to move around the sky. And as it does, it will have conversations or energetic impressions upon your natal energy. The energy that you inhaled at the time of your birth, the energy that is your birth chart. And so Saturn at about age 7 goes into what we call a square. A Saturn square is the first time in your life where you want to take on more responsibility. You want to be your own tough love dad. You want to be your own authority. And so we see children at about the age of 7 step into this, I want to do this on my own. I want to, put my clothes away. I want to take on more responsibility. I want to do it, right? That Saturn energy, that first square at age 7 is where the Saturn on your birth chart is here and Saturn in the sky is now here. And we always talk about squares in astrology being pressure points, forcing change and creating growth in our lives. And so at age 7, we go through our first Saturn square. Then 7 years after that, Saturn will be directly opposite in the sky where it was on the date of your birth, and this is around age 14. Another pivotal moment in our growth as souls. At age 14, don't we feel like we're already adults? We hate when people tell us what to do, right? Saturn is the energy of like, I want to do it my way. I want to take on accountability. I want to have responsibility. I am an adult. And so at age 14, Saturn in your chart was here, and now Saturn in the sky is directly opposite, showing you this opposition of what you were when you were born, helpless, to now what you could be, a full-blown adult. It's your first opposition in your life. It's the first time that you kind of feel like, I got this, right? And you feel like a mini grown-up. And so that's a huge chapter in our lives. Then, about 7 years later, at age 21, Saturn goes through another square, but it's opposite, right? Now Saturn, maybe in your chart, was here, then at your first square at age 7 here, at age 14 here, and at age 21 here. This is a major moment in our lives, age 21, right? It is kind of like that moment in your life where you're like, I don't want to have parents. I want to move out. I want to get a job. I want to do all the things that I need to do to be an adult and to live life on my own terms. So we think we have accountability. We think we have discipline. We think we have what it takes, but we have not gone through our Saturn return yet. Meaning the area of life that Saturn has not covered yet from your birth chart, Saturn, to where he is at age 21, there's a gap. There's an area within your birth chart, within your life, that Saturn hasn't covered yet. So you're not fully an adult yet. There's an area he still needs to teach you lessons on so you can completely level up and grow up. I know this is a lot of information, so just like bear with me on this. I'm trying to break it down in a way that kind of makes sense as you're journeying throughout your life. Now, at age 28 to about 30, depending on the time you were born, Saturn will come back to the zodiac sign, the home in which it was on the date of your birth. And that is what we call your Saturn return. Now, Saturn has gone around the entire zodiac wheel, around the entire sky, impacting every single area of your life, helping you grow, take on more challenges, have obstacles. You grew, you matured, you took on more responsibility, more discipline, more commitment, had more boundaries. And now that he's back, you feel like it's time to grow up. Saturn returns are moments of inventory. Remember, he is Lord Karma. So how much have you grown? How much responsibility have you taken on? How much discipline, structure, routine, commitment, boundaries? How are your foundations? How much have you taken on in doing the responsible adult thing in your life? Now, for people who haven't had to take on a lot of responsibility, their Saturn return might be really challenging. It's a time in your life where everything can kind of get dumped out, tipped upside down, analyzed, reassessed, and evaluated to where your soul wants to be at this stage in its journey. And so Saturn returns can be extremely challenging. Now, depending on what zodiac sign your Saturn return happens in, meaning whatever zodiac sign your Saturn was at the time of your birth, will determine what that energy is going to feel like. So for those of you who've had a Saturn return in Capricorn between 2018 and 2020, or a Saturn return in Aquarius, which happened from December of 2020 until now, March 7th of 2023, you've had a very challenging Saturn return. And that's due to the fact that Saturn is the ruling planet of Capricorn and Aquarius. So he's in his full power. You tend to be people based on your birth chart that take on more responsibility from a young age, that want to kind of take control, that want to have authority, that want to have rules and structure and routine in your life. And so in the areas of life that maybe you don't have those, your Saturn return will amplify that, will show you where the weak spots are. Now, for all of us, as we go through a Saturn return, you are going to have to evaluate every foundation in your life, right? All 12 areas of life, all areas of life that Saturn had to journey around the sky in. Are they as strong as you thought they were? Are they structured in the way that you desire? Where do you need to have more boundaries in your life? Where do you need to take on more discipline? And so Saturn returns are lesson learning opportunities, and they come with challenges, because the only way you know how strong you are is by overcoming an obstacle and by fixing a problem and creating a solution and not ignoring it. Now, this is why I say we should not get married before our Saturn return, because as souls, we grow up a whole lot between age 27 and 30. And so if you are with someone or have gotten married before them, give them a lot of grace and patience as they go through this transition, as they step into their own inner authority, as they decide to take on more responsibilities or to change their life. I always say, as Saturn journeys around the first time from age 0 to 28, you can't really fail, right? If Saturn goes into your house of career and you get a job and you hate it and you quit that job, you can go back and live on your parents' couch, right? Not a big deal between the age of 0 and 28. Now, if you get married and get divorced and you got to start over, it's not so bad before the age of 30. Or just like any other area of your life where you try something and it doesn't work out, it's not so bad. But after the age of 30, you start to feel different about these failures. You feel different about the obstacles or the challenges you've taken on. You want to have stronger foundations. You want to have a career that's kind of taking off at that point in your life. You want to have a solid relationship. You want to have a sense of identity. You want to have friendships that, are long withstanding to kind of go into the future with. So at that point, after your Saturn return, you look at all those areas of life like, all right, I want them to be stronger and more solid and more stable, and I want to step into that responsibility. And so you do change a lot during your Saturn return. Now, understanding that as Saturn moves through the sky again after your Saturn return, maybe you just got out of it because you have a Saturn in Aquarius, and now Saturn has moved into Pisces, this is your second go-round. For many of us, we are on our second go-round of our Saturn return. Second go-rounds means that Saturn is coming back for the second time to an area. But this time it's a little bit more challenging, because the first time around you were younger and it was a first opportunity to take an inventory. But now we really got to be serious. We really got to step it up. We really have to look at this area of our life. And so the challenges can be a little bit more aggressive if you aren't already doing what you need to do in that area of your life. So that's kind of what your second Saturn return looks like. You get to the age of about 60 as Saturn comes back for the second time to the place where he was on the date of your birth. That second Saturn return at about age 60 is where you see a lot of people energetically saying, you know what, I'm done. I'm done living for other people. I don't have a lot of time left. Like, I want every single area of my life to be the way that I want it to be. And those people take on a lot of inner power, a lot of inner authority. They start living life on their own terms. And they really do a lot of purging of the things out. They let go of responsibilities, like maybe they go into retirement, they let go of responsibilities with their children and start living for themselves. They let go of their image and their identity and kind of just live life the way that they want to. And so that second Saturn return, although it's still challenging because it's changing who you are, it's also saying, I am my own inner authority now. I live life on my rules and on my terms. And so you step into Saturn's energy and welcome it instead of being influenced by it cosmically. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. So with that, I kind of want to go into the lessons that we're meant to learn during a Saturn return, especially for those of you who are currently going through a Saturn return in Pisces. Now, knowing that you're in your Saturn return can bring a lot of peace, bring a lot of sense of understanding, because the main lessons you're meant to learn during a Saturn return is, number one, where in my life are my foundations not strong? Where in my life do I need to reevaluate the different parts and figure out where the cracks are, right? Where can I maybe just put some putty in there and fill the crack because it's really small? And where in my life do I need to like literally tear down all the bricks and have a new foundation built? So this can be extremely challenging during a Saturn return. So if you are not yet experiencing your Saturn return, if you were born after 1996 and it's leading up to your first Saturn return, start doing inventory now. Start really looking at your life, your money, your career, your relationships, your friendships, all 12 houses in astrology, all 12 areas of life, and start taking inventory. Because the main lesson Saturn is going to teach you is what is weak. What needs to crumble, what needs to fall, and where do you need to rebuild, and where in your life maybe do you have to fill in cracks in your foundation. So that's a major lesson that you learn during your Saturn return. The second major lesson you learn during your Saturn return is responsibility. Extreme radical responsibility for everything in your life. If you've kind of had assistance from maybe parents, had roommates, maybe you got married earlier and your partner was really helpful with your growth and your development and maybe financially supporting you, during your Saturn return, you're going to energetically be called, you're going to get challenges, you're going to get obstacles, you're going to get limitations, you're going to get things, experiences handed to you that you're going to have to take responsibility. You're going to have to step up. You're going to have to be your own parent. You're going to have to do the hard work that's necessary to create the life of your dreams. And so responsibility is a major, major theme that comes up. Now, that is also responsibility over your health, over your daily tasks, over your belief systems. It's also mental. It's not just like what you see in your day-to-day life, but it's also kind of the energetics, the emotional health, the mental health, the way that you learn, your education. All of those things are also included in what you're going to have to take responsibility for and step into in a bigger way. The third major lesson during your Saturn return, and again, this is super specific depending on what area of your life in your birth chart this falls, and also what zodiac energy this plays out in, but you're going to have to implement stronger boundaries. Boundaries, because Saturn really loves to know the rules. What are the rules of the game? Do we play it this way? Do we play it that way? How do you win? How do you create things? How do you build things? Like, we got to know the rules. And so during your Saturn return, you're really going to have to implement these boundaries, these rules, these structures, these rituals, these ways of doing your life that are very clear cut and dry. Now, before the age of 28, we can kind of get away with, a job where we call in, friendships that we just kind of get together with once in a while. Like, we're able to kind of get away with things without really having like permanence to them. But Saturn, during your Saturn return, wants you to have boundaries. So personal boundaries, like knowing, who in your life is there for you and who do you give your energy to, knowing what your needs, wants, and desires are, boundaries as far as time boundaries. So when you work, when you play, how much self-care, emotional boundaries, right? Understanding, how you feel versus how other people feel, how to contain your emotions, how to express your emotions, your spiritual boundaries. So, do you go to church? What do you believe in? Do you have faith? Do you have hope? Do you have optimism? All the different areas of your life, you're going to have to kind of take a stance, make a clear cut and dry rule book for your life and how you want to live it moving forward. So that can be a big challenge during your Saturn return as well. Now, Saturn's lessons come in many different formats. It can come in things like death, illness, and health crises, or it can come in like minor inconveniences, like not getting what you want at work, not getting the promotion, friendships fading away. Like, they're all going to be different. And again, that's where I kind of say having a personal astrology reading and really understanding your chart and what the lesson you're specifically meant to learn in your lifetime, depending on your Saturn placement, is very important to kind of make that more individual. But overall, your Saturn return is just going to be an up-level moment. Knowing that when you come out of it, you are going to feel more mature. You're going to feel more stronger. You're going to feel more stable. You're going to feel more in control. You're going to have a clearer sense of what you desire. So if you're going through it now in Pisces, let's kind of wrap up this video as I give you a little cheat sheet how to navigate it through this energy. Also, for all of us, remembering that after our Saturn return, Saturn moves around the sky every 3 years. So there's going to be a new area of your life every 3 years that Saturn is teaching you something in. And for all of us, if you caught my Saturn and Pisces video, I talk a lot more in detail about what we're all meant to learn during that energy. But Saturn is debilitated in the energy of Pisces. Like I mentioned, he is in full power in Capricorn and Aquarius. And so when he moves into Pisces, he doesn't particularly enjoy being there because he's very rigid, very structured. And Pisces is a very ethereal, metaphysical, free-flowing energy. So he doesn't quite know what to do with that. So for all of my people going through a Saturn return in Pisces, it's going to be a lot more gentle for you than it was for the others who went through it in Aquarius. So that is some hope and some positivity to walk into your Saturn return with. But it's still going to come with challenges. So what are those challenges, my Saturn return Pisces people? Pisces is an energy that focuses heavily on the energetics of life. So it's the metaphysical spaces, it's the things unseen, it's your dreams, it's your thoughts, it's your creativity, it's your visions, it is your emotional health, it is your spiritual health, it is your energetic body, like your aura and your chakras and your karma and your ancestral trauma. And so for those of you with a Saturn in Pisces, you were born with a Saturn in Pisces. And since Saturn in our birth chart is our disciplinarian and our tough love dad, he's going to always teach you throughout your entire life to overcome some obstacle. And that main obstacle for those of you with a Saturn in Pisces is to understand life on an energetic plane. It's going to have more faith, more trust in the universe, more optimism, more belief in something greater than yourself. It is calling you and asking you your entire life to believe in something that you don't yet see manifested. So you're going to be challenged in these things. They aren't always easy. And every time you deviate away from that, that's when you're going to get an obstacle. And so a lot of challenges in your life, the call for you with Saturn is to trust it's all working out for the right reason, to trust in a higher source, to trust in your own abilities. There's a lot of intuition, a lot of special mediumship gifts that people with Saturn and Pisces can have, but it's going to be a challenge to work on those because you're going to want to have a physical manifestation, a cold, hard, concrete proof that something exists before you believe it. And this is going to be your challenge to trust and believe before you see it. Now, when you go through this Saturn return in Pisces, this is going to have a lot to do with your subconscious, your mental health, your emotional health, and your spiritual health. So this is an area of life that I would highly, highly recommend you get strong, because Saturn wants you to have very stable foundations, right? And so what are your self-limiting beliefs? What are the stories you're telling yourself? Where is your mental health not as strong as you desire it to be? Do you need to go to therapy? Do you need to do some emotional releasing? Do you need to take on some techniques to help you move through stuck and stagnant things in your aura, in your energetic field? Are there childhood wounds? Are there things that maybe you are ready to let go of? This is a very big energy around purging, releasing, and letting go everything of the last 28 years of your life, or 30, depending on your age when you enter this journey, that need to go, that need to be left behind. So for those of you with a Saturn in Pisces, in your Saturn return, it's all about your energetic foundation. your spirituality. This is going to be a huge calling for all of you. What do you believe in? Do you need to go back to church? Do you need to have a prayer ritual? Do you want to start using oracle cards? Do you want to start tapping into your intuition and your intuitive gifts and your energetic abilities? These are huge areas of life that are going to come up for you, and there's a major healing energy here. It's absolutely beautiful, but it's going to focus more on the energetic plane and how you view your life through faith, trust, hope, and optimism on the world around you, and your spiritual beliefs and your energetic feelings, all of those things. So it's a little bit different than the rest of us who go through a Saturn return in other zodiac signs. And again, depending on your rising sign and your own unique birth chart, that can be broken down way more specifically in what area of your life and how and when in the time frame you're meant to learn this. For all of us, something to understand is Saturn's journey through Pisces now in 2023 is going to be very unique to his traditional journey as he enters into new zodiac signs. In 2023, on March 7th, he enters at 0 degrees. Now he's going to go from 0 degrees to 7 degrees by June 17th. So any of you who have a Saturn in Pisces in your birth chart and you're going through your Saturn return, you want to check to see at what degree. There'll be a little number on your birth chart that is going to give you the degree point that Saturn was in Pisces. If it is anywhere from 0 to 8, that means your exact Saturn return moment is happening this year. And it's happening with a retrograde involved. So you're going to be bumping back and forth into these lessons right off the bat. Now, if you have a Saturn in Pisces anywhere after 8 degrees of Pisces to 30, you're not going to feel the heaviness of your Saturn return until 2024. So for all of us to kind of understand that, whether you have a Saturn in Pisces or not, all of us are getting an opportunity as Saturn moves into Pisces, and then he will retrograde back to the beginning. So we get this little opportunity right now where Saturn's going to observe us and see how strong we are in the Pisces area of our life. I talk so much more about that in my Saturn and Pisces video. I will link it again here for you. Go ahead and watch it after this video. But I hope you have a better understanding of Saturn in astrology, Saturn's energy, the cycles of life that Saturn is meant to teach us in. I talk so much more about Saturn as an energy in that Saturn and Pisces video, so you get to know him even a little bit better. But I wanted to just kind of focus on the Saturn return stuff in this video. So I hope it was helpful. If you enjoy these types of informational astrology videos, make sure you like and subscribe. If you want more specific information about relationships in astrology, you can follow me over on TikTok at the Relational Astrologer. And of course, I'll be back with all the astro weather and astro updates. If you have your 2023 astrology retrograde journal, you can go ahead and open it up to page 44 and 45. This is the page for Saturn's retrograde. You can already get a heads up on that and prepare for it coming up this summer into November. And if you don't have a copy of this, they are available for sale. You can find them in the description box below. It is the educational interactive journal I write every single year that goes through every new and full moon, sun season, and retrograde. And it will help teach you so much about the astrology, about each life coach, about the zodiac signs, little by little throughout the year. So within 1 year, you will have a greater understanding of astrology. So with all of that, for all of my Saturn and Pisces people, I send you love and light during your Saturn return. If you even want to do like a mini reading with me, just focusing on your Saturn return and what you're meant to learn, I do offer those sessions as well. And I will be back with many more videos on astrology. With that, I will catch you in the next video.